see. Let me turn this thing around a little bit. Nice, man. Thank you. All right. Start. No share, it's our song.
Rise and go through simple acts more than we know. There's a blessing in the smallest things. In the body's work, the soul takes wing. Hashem reminds us where.
What a great job by a team. Oh, Hashem.
Each moment, every breath we take, a miracle that we can't forsake. With proper tefillin, we lift up.
B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. Bruchim habayim. We're back here on our Tuesday night War of Amalek series with a short little introduction of the new song that was published today on our Tshuva Music channel, which you can find on YouTube, you can find on Spotify, Apple Music, and so on and so forth, all the other places. For you to stay up to date with all of the amazing things that the organization Be'ezrat Hashem is doing, whether it's the BH Kids, Hebrew and English cartoons that are giving you stories of tzaddikim, or animations I should say, or it's my shiurim, or Rabbi Ephraim shiurim, or the different campaigns, you could simply follow us on WhatsApp. We have a group over there, we have a page. Just type in my name and you'll find something somewhere over there. Of course, Facebook and TikTok and all of social media. It's somewhere along the lines. We've signed up, we've publicized, and we're making ourselves available so everybody could keep up to date. Also, just want to remind everyone, we have Chanukah coming up, and there's a lot of help that's needed for poor people in Eretz Yisrael during this winter. We just started a campaign today. We launched it just literally in the last hour for everyone to become partners in this campaign. If you want to know more about it, you could just simply go onto the campaign page, which will probably be in the description as well as in the comments, the link for it, and donate generously. So, with that being said, this shul is going to be for the Refuah Shlema and Hatzlacha Rabba for Morenu v'Rabbeinu Rabbi Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahis that continue to contribute and help us all the amazing things that Baruch Hashem, the organization, is doing. So we have our series, the holy words of Rav Elchanan Wasserman are piercing the hearts of, literally even hearts of stone are starting to bleed from this series, because he's telling you literally the not just the plan, not just the diagnosis, but he's literally making it very specific to each and every single person out there that can do something about it. Now, in the past shurim, we've heard Rav Wasserman's precise rebuke to the religious community. Now, in the Era of Mashiach series that we did a few years ago, based on Rav Wasserman's work, the main attack was really against the secular Zionist Enlightenment type of mentalities and ideologies. And even though that's also mentioned in this series as well, we saw that throughout this series, the main focus was really on the religious community. What's the problem with the religious community? You know, technically, if we're supposed to be more religious, more united, we should be more successful in our outreach. We should be more successful in our, getting more people to become religious and getting all of our brothers and sisters that are not religious or less religious to catch up and bring the salvation, bring Mashiach here, because that's what the Mashiach is waiting for. He's waiting for Am Yisrael to do tshuva. As we say in our prayer every day, Uba leTzion Goel, leshaveh pesha beYaakov. The Goel, the Mashiach, is going to come when people do tshuva. But until we do tshuva, we're delaying it. So Rav Wasserman's direct and precise nuclear missile into our hearts as a rebuke to the Jewish community is certainly something that everyone has to face, because this is a reality. And one of the main things that Rav Wasserman is simply saying is that there's a lack of passion in this war of Amalek. There's simply a lack of passion. People are more excited about other things than they are about publicizing Torah. Tonight, we're going to dig a little deeper into Rav Wasserman's holy writings and find out what he thinks about our generation. Our generation specifically in their hunger for monetary success. There's not a day that goes by that somebody doesn't ask me some type of question about their ambitions, their business, their financial situation. And of course, again, this is a necessary part of life. We're not saying that a person needs to expect to live on man coming down from Shamayim like we did in the desert for 40 years. But there is a certain level of obsession that people have about money, where they're willing to send you a question about some type of business transaction they want to do at 3 o'clock in the morning. But if it comes up to some type of shiur that you're telling them to watch, or it comes up to some type of good chesed that you're asking them to help, all of a sudden they're not available, it's too late, it's too early, it's too this and it's too that. We see that the obsession when it comes to money is much more than anything else. In fact, all of the other ta'avot that exist out there always connect somehow to money. Now, on one end, we can say technically it's good. Why? Because if we're ambitious, then we're going to have more money, theoretically speaking. And if we have more money, then there's going to be more money available for the sake of publicizing Torah. So perhaps it is good. Perhaps it's bad though, because maybe it's not being utilized for Torah. Maybe people are spending more money on buying more watches and newer cars and bigger houses and a vacation and all of the other things that people spend their money on than they are spending on Torah, which for sure is the case, but does that make it bad? Perhaps there's actually a cost of success that we're not realizing at all. And that this is where the rich sons of Lavan caught us off guard. Who are the rich sons of Lavan? We met them last week in this lecture, but tonight we're going to meet them a little bit more. And we're going to address these issues, the words of the Gaon of Elchanan Wasserman from the previous generation that is telling us words that are as relevant today as if Moshe Rabbeinu was literally giving us the Torah today. And Rav Wasserman told us last week that one of the things that most people don't realize about Yaakov's cry when he met with Esav was the fact that he wasn't afraid of becoming less religious, because he was prepared before he went to Lavan's house. But he is disappointed. He is disappointed that after 20 years of being in Lavan's house, he didn't learn from him. Not that he wanted to learn his heresy or anything like that, but he didn't learn his excitement for doing sins. But yet, Yaakov wanted to learn that excitement in order to apply it to mitzvot, in order to apply it to serve Hashem. And he says, I lived with Lavan for all of these years, and I fulfilled the entire Torah, but yet I did not learn the passion and excitement that Lavan has when he makes sins, in order for me to be able to apply them when I am serving Hashem and making mitzvot. And this, Rav Wasserman is telling us, is what we are supposed to know. We are supposed to learn from the wicked people how they are excited about their wickedness, their evil, their craziness, and apply that same level of passion and commitment to serving Hashem. And thereby learn from the students of Lavan, from the sons of Lavan. And then he continues, and he says, וכן אנחנו צריכים להתבונן בהתנהגותם של תלמידו של לבן. We have to delve into the actions of the students of Lavan, כדי ללמוד, in order for us to learn, איך להתנהג במעשים טובים, how we should carry ourselves when it comes to doing good deeds. Just like the wicked people are excited about doing their wickedness, if it comes to promoting a party that's going to have a bunch of toeva in it, or it's going to be some type of heretical event, or it's going to be some other thing that is against Hashem, we see that people unite, people are excited, people all of a sudden have all the time in the world to do it, nothing else gets in their way. They have narrow vision, focused on the goal. And even though the goal is evil, even though the goal is against God, even though the goal is going to hurt everyone involved, including those that are a part of it, they're focused on it. Rav Wasserman says we have to learn from this. We have to learn how they behave when they're doing their wickedness and apply that type of behavior when we're doing good. Furthermore, says Rav Wasserman, ורואים אנחנו, it said, he says, we also see with all of these so-called VIPs, these private party type of people, the leaders of the secular world, the celebrities, if you will, we see from them that their ideology, their lifestyle, is based on materialism. אבל למעשה, but yet we see though, עיקר תשומת ליבם לרוחניות, להפיץ כפירה והפקרות. He says that although these VIPs, these social leaders of the secular world, these leaders of the heretical world, which sometimes looks religious, one of the common denominators that we see is that their lives are very materialistic. They show you where they stand based on their material acquisitions. Bigger houses, fancier sports cars, vacations, private planes, all types of material. So it looks like their primary focus in life is material. But Rav Wasserman says, no, this is a disguise. Because if you actually look at where these very same people focus all of their energy is actually after spirituality in order to publicize heresy and lawlessness. Here Rav Wasserman uncovers an extraordinary secret that perhaps has been under the noses of everyone in society, but virtually no one has actually acknowledged it without hearing the holy words of Rav Wasserman, where you literally have an enormous amount of focus on materialism by these so-called popular people, these leaders. And it would seem as if materialism is what they're after. They want more power, they want more money, they want more control, because they can get more houses and bigger companies. And every other day there's a new video about the BlackRocks of the world or some other major mutual fund company that owns a bunch of assets. And literally 99.999% of the people that make videos about this are completely clueless at how the stock market works. They make it seem as if these companies, these mutual funds, own the world. They don't understand what shareholders are and what funds are. But needless to say, whoever is in the headlines, whoever is leading the communities, the countries, whether it's the small community, big community, on TV, on the internet, they call themselves, what do they call it? Influencers, whatever it is. He says we see that what they project is their material success. He just got a bigger position in the court. He's now at the top of the Supreme Court. He just got a bigger position in the government, or in the country, or in the company. Or he got a more material possessions, a bigger house, a bigger building, a bigger company, a bigger possession, more fancy watches, more this, more that. So it looks like these sons of Lavan that are rich, that are successful, are focusing on materialism. But in reality, this is a disguise, because their real focus is spirituality, because their main message and purpose is to publicize the war against God, heresy and lawlessness. One of the modern examples we see in Israel, for example, even though I live in Florida, obviously we're very much connected to Israel and all the things that are happening there, and spend an enormous amount of energy and resources helping the poor people in Eretz Yisrael, having our kollels there. And hearing about Israeli politics is by far my least favorite thing. You could even say one of the most hated things that I have. But you have to hear about it from time to time to see what's going on. And when you hear that the Supreme Court in Israel wants to have a bigger building than the congressional building in order to show that they are more powerful than the government. This is materialism at its best. The court, the judges, the lefty liberal judges that sometimes pretend to be right, sometimes even pretend to be religious, some of them, but they're completely apikosim. They want to have a taller building than the government building. Why? Because we're above the law. We're above the government. We are the law. So it looks like their obsession with material is to such an extent that it's literally sickening. But that's just a disguise. Because anyone that pays attention to what this court, this heretical court in Israel, has spent nearly all of its efforts and resources in recent years, would clearly see that all of their resources, all of their energy, all of what they do has to do with spiritual, meaning they're constantly attacking the world of Torah, constantly attacking the yeshivot and what kind of funding they're going to get from the government, as if they are enemies of the country and not like other schools. As if the people that are learning, botany and all types of other interesting subjects that vast majority of people can't do anything with, getting them the funding at the university of millions of dollars is much more important than getting a Jewish person to learn where he came from and why he's here and who his God is. So giving funding to the university so somebody could learn what horses feel when they're thrown out of a plane, like some of the experiments they have here with government money in America. Similar stupidity happens in Israel, just to a different extent. The government has no problem, the court has no problem funding those things. But to fund Torah scholarship, to fund yeshivot, to fund the religious community is absolutely against everything that they believe. And they have done everything they can to cut and cut and cut and even get to a point of penalizing Jewish people for being religious, for being loyal to their God, for being loyal to where they came from. And if that was it, I wouldn't even mention it because that's probably something all of you have already known. But we see actually that the court that wants a taller building than the Congress also spent an enormous amount of energy attacking the religious community to force the scholars to leave the kollel and go to the army. So much so that they've literally poisoned the vast majority of people that follow Israeli politics in the world to believe as if there is a shortage of soldiers in the Israeli army. Very few actually realize that the vast majority of soldiers that go into the army do not ever see battle. They serve in the kitchen, in the bathroom, engineering, computers. The vast majority never see battle. So when people say, oh, soldiers are going to die because you're not there. What are you talking about? If I was cutting potatoes, that's not going to save anybody. If I was playing on a computer in order to make sure that everybody gets their paychecks on time, how is that going to save everybody? If I was cleaning the bathrooms, yes, it's all important, but it's not going to save anybody's life. You're not shooting anybody. You're not facing terrorists. And in fact, the reason why the vast majority of soldiers don't go into battle is because there's already too many. So much so that there are certain platoons, certain sections of the army that do not have weapons, do not have boots. There's more soldiers than there are weapons. But many believe that it is the religious people that are holding back Israel from winning against its enemy. Why? Because the court has done everything possible alongside the media to make people believe that the religious people hate the country, hate the non-religious people, and they'll do anything in order for you to think that. They're not going to tell you that there are just as many, if not much more, secular people that refuse to go into the army for no reason whatsoever. They're not going to tell you that. You're not going to see that in the news. They're not going to tell you that if a terrorist kills a Jew, his family's going to get thousands of dollars every single month as a result. They're not going to tell you that. The court of Israel is an enemy of the people without the people knowing it. And they've done everything possible to make you hate the world of Torah, cutting funding, distortions in the media, drafting avrichim, putting non-kosher food in hospitals. They're fighting tooth and nail in order to make sure that Israeli hospitals that have easy access to kosher food supply non-kosher food. For what benefit? Because they want to have non-kosher food. The court fights tooth and nail against the religious people that want to have the same laws we've had for the last several decades, which is no public transportation on Shabbat. The court fights against them. And they want to have public transportation in every part of Israel on Shabbat. So we see here, these are all spiritual endeavors. They're against the religiosity of the Jews. Not so much materialistic. Like, you're not seeing the court creating any new jobs. You're not seeing the court making any laws that are making it favorable for businesses. You're not seeing the court make any laws that are somehow going to make it more favorable for you to transport more things into Israel. In fact, the court and the government want to continue the tariffs of 17% anytime you bring anything into Israel. Every time we ship $100,000, $200,000 worth of books or whatever goods into Israel, we have to pay a 17% tax. So forget about the shipping cost from Israel or America, wherever we're shipping it from. That already in itself is very expensive. You're spending $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 just on shipping. But on top of that, whatever your goods cost, and there's just simply no way around it, if you wanted to get off the boat, add another 17% you have to pay the government. So even without ever stepping a foot into Israel, if you're doing business in Israel, you're going to pay an enormous amount of money in taxes. Now this is unfavorable for business. Completely unfavorable. In fact, if you want to get a new car in Israel, you're going to pay literally more money for an old car than somebody will pay for a brand new car in America, by a factor of 5, 10, or even 20. You're going to pay as much money for a 10-year-old car than someone is going to pay for a brand new car here in America. So you don't see the court concerned about these issues. What are they concerned about? Their new obsession, the mikvehs of the religious Jewish women. They're trying to force a law that the balanit, the woman that is in charge of the mikveh, every time a woman comes to dip before she's able to come back home to be with her husband, that one time a month that she has to dip. This is a beautiful experience, a holy experience. The mikvehs of today are better than salons. They're clean, they're beautiful, they're holy. And they're all people, all walks of life in there, whether they are, really religious, even secular women go to the mikveh. But now the court cannot rest until there is a law that forces the woman that's in charge, what's called the balanit of the mikveh, to not ask the women whether they followed the laws of the Torah in preparation for the mikveh. There are certain things that a woman has to do before she goes to the mikveh. And the balanit needs to make sure she did it. The court says you're not allowed to ask them. You're not allowed to ask them what they did. That's a form of prejudice. Now, this level of obsession shows that the court, that on one end wants to have a taller building than the government because of its material endeavors. In reality, their main focus is spirituality. In order to distort the Torah, in order to publicize heresy, in order to publicize lawlessness. This is just one of the main points that Rav Wasserman is saying, is that while it looks like these students of Lavan, these lefty liberal, these heretics, these enemies of the Torah and enemies of God, it looks like they're mainly focusing on money, on materialism. The truth is that it's all for the sake of publicizing heresy. So this is the first point that the average person is simply not going to get unless they're hearing the words of Rav Wasserman, because looks can be very deceiving. And Rav Wasserman is saying the influence that these students of Lavan have had on the sons of Yaakov, on the religious Jews, on those that fear Hashem, the influence is actually much more extensive than you think. He says, on one end, this type of ideology and behavior of the enemy, of Amalek, should be something we learn from and apply to our life, where the main focal point that we should have in our servitude of Hashem should be also on spirituality, just like the sons of Lavan have, just like the Amalek has. They're pretending to be materialistic, but in reality their focal point is on spirituality, to spread heresy. We should also focus on spirituality in order to publicize Da'at Torah, in order to publicize Yirat Hashem, in order to publicize the fear of Hashem. That's what Rabbi is saying. ככה גם אצלנו, עיקר עבודתנו, צריכה שתהיה רוחנית, להפיץ דעת תורה ויראת השם. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to learn from them. What did we do instead? We've been influenced by them. How so? והשמחים לניצחונות היריים בעניינים גשמיים. יש לומר להם, כמו שאמר שר בצבא ידוע, אחרי ניצחון אחד שהיה לו, ובניצחוננו זה עבד מחצית העם אשר איתו. עוד ניצחון אחד כזה ועבדתי. Says there are some people among the religious community saying, you know what the solution is? You know what the solution is to fight Amalek? You know what the solution is to fight against the lefty liberals? We need to have more money than them. We need to have more money than them. That's what we need to have. If we have more money than them, then we're going to have more connections than them. We're going to go to the White House in America and take pictures and then put it on our social websites. Put it on LinkedIn, put it on Facebook, put it on Twitter, show everybody, wow, I'm praying mincha at the White House, I'm praying mariv, I'm eating kosher food at the White House or at some other governmental building. Or I'm meeting with Elon Musk, I'm meeting with Bill Gates, I'm meeting with all these important people. If we have more success, then we're going to win. Says Rav Wasserman, that's the problem. You think you could win that way. He says, you see, there's a mistaken notion that religious people have that you can see with your own eyes when they celebrate materialistic winnings of other religious people. Such as they're happy that their rabbi, or there is a rabbi that they know, or even if they don't know, they hear that there's a rabbi that went to meet with some important person, whether it be the president or some CEO or some billionaire. They're happy. Wow, look, yes, maybe he can help us fight anti-Semitism. He's the president. He's a billionaire. He's an influencer. He can get his millions of followers to end anti-Semitism once and for all. And people get happy about this. Or when they hear some nice Gentile in Saudi Arabia, in the UN, speaking for England or some other country, because certainly if he's part of the UN, he's definitely not going to say anything positive about Israel. But people get excited when they hear some Gentiles say good things about the Jews. Look at that. It's so nice. It's so refreshing. Look at the things he's saying about Israel. He's saying that we really do have a rights for Israel. We do have rights for the land. Look, he's saying we are God's chosen people. Look at that. And people get excited and jazzed up by this. Literally, they republicize the same old video sometimes just because they want the new views, the new excitement, even though the video was already released 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago by some person that publicized a portion of somebody's speech that's favorable for Israel. It got millions of views back then, and then it died out. So what do? They republicize it on a different channel. Somebody else republicize, and again it gets millions of views, and everybody gets jazzed up again. Wow, look at that. This non-Jewish woman that came from this country is speaking up favorable about Israel. Look, this colonel from England is speaking favorable about. Look, this Palestinian is speaking favorable. Look, this Hamas is speaking. Everybody's speaking favorable. Everybody gets excited about it. And it's a big blessing if they hear some president say nice things about Israel. Ooh, I wouldn't be surprised if some in the religious community don't actually say l'chaim for it. They actually take a nice bottle of maybe scotch or their favorite wine, and with their buddy they say l'chaim to the life of the president or the billionaire, or whoever it is. They're celebrating as if we won. As if we won, as if we just defeated anti-Semitism, as if the Mashiach has arrived, but hasn't announced it officially yet. So now, Wasserman is saying it's a mistake. To think that that materialistic win is a win like you think is a mistake. In fact, some people get so excited that when they see a religious Jew playing in the NBA or in the the MMC, the martial arts, they see a religious Jew with a tzitzit punching some other person in the face millions of times and winning, and then putting his tzitzit back. Look at that! Look, the Jews are winning. The Jews are winning. Or look, the Jew can kick a ball or dunk a ball. Look, the Jews are winning. The Jews are winning. People get so excited about this. Or if they hear there's a Jew that succeeded in business and just bought a building or a city or whatever he bought, everybody gets excited. Look at this guy. He's a billionaire. He's a Jew. Even though he doesn't wear a kippah, probably doesn't keep Shabbat, and he's married to a non-Jew, but still, he's a Jew and he's proud of his Judaism. The Jews are winning. The Jews are winning. This is nothing further. There's literally nothing further from the truth in this. Not just because I'm saying it. That's what Rav Wasserman is saying. Rav Wasserman is telling us people act as if the nitzchonot, these wins by other religious Jews in materialistic endeavors, are wins. But in reality, what is it like? He said it's like a famous general who, after fighting a battle and losing half the country, died in the battle. Somebody came up to him, "General, tell us, how does it feel after such a win?" And the general says to him, "Such a win, another win like this, and none of us would be alive anymore." Meaning, how do you even consider this a win? We lost half the country. Yes, they lost everything temporarily, but we lost half. Another win like this, the other half would be gone, we'd all be dead. What kind of win is this? The same concept is here, says Rav Wasserman. כי הניצחונות הגשמיים עולים במחיר יקר מאוד, בהפסד הרוחניות. He says, because these materialistic wins that everyone is celebrating, the president and the businessman and the martial arts and the NBA and the new artist and the new painter and the new, all of these things, these are all wins that in reality have a very heavy price. And that price is a loss in spirituality. You won materially, but it cost you spirituality. It cost you connection to Hashem. It cost you fear of Hashem. It cost you servitude of Hashem. Further, says Rav Wasserman, you see, initially a person is going to deny this, reject this. Come on, no. There are plenty of religious people that donate to yeshivot. That's usually the typical excuse. That's the typical, argument. There are plenty of, look, A lot of these billionaires, they donated to the Knesset and the yeshiva. You're right. They did. But that doesn't mean that that's a win when you look at the overall chart of what our purpose in this world is, of what we're actually supposed to be doing. What we don't realize as Rav Wasserman is that these wins generate a greater loss sometimes than the actual win. The loss is not always something that you can see immediately. Like somebody made a lot of money and therefore became a heretic. No, it's not quite so obvious. The loss is sometimes something that you'll see over time, how the mentality changes. In recent years, there's become a new mentality in the world of yeshivot, that everyone has to own a house once they get married. In previous years, in the times of my parents and grandparents, there was no such thing as if you get married, you have to buy a house. All it is you get married, find a place to live, even if that means you're still living in your parents' house, or you're renting a house, or you're finding some way to survive. But today, it's if you're going to get married, that means you have to somehow find a way to buy a house. It's not enough to rent. Now, since people that are getting married are young, all of that pressure is on the parents. And since the parents don't want to handle the pressure alone, they put the pressure on the Rosh Yeshiva that don't have my boy marry some girl that's religious but poor. You gotta, if she wants to marry my stellar son that's learning Torah day and night, she has to come with a family with a lot of money, because she has to pay for the house. She has to pay for this. She has to, if he's going to learn a kollel, she has to pay for all of these things. Her parents meaning. And there's become this obsession with owning apartments, owning houses. Rental is not acceptable for many, even though many do rent, but people have this mentality, you have to own a house. You have to own a house. And it's a common question in Israel. It's a common question in America too, which is really a very invasive and inappropriate question. It shows lack of manners when people ask you, are you renting or you bought? What do you care? Did you see any deductions from your bank for my rent or my mortgage, whichever one you thought it is? What difference does it make to you if I rent or I bought? What, are you measuring me up to see if I'm an investor in your endeavor? Why do you care if I rent or I bought? But people ask this as if they're asking, what's the weather? That's because the students of Lavan, in their publicizing of heresy masked by materialism, have influenced even those among us that are loyal to Hashem to think that we need materialism in order to defeat Amalek. Now, this obsession with apartments not only is something that causes many shidduchim to break. There's literally shidduch as we speak that Rabbi Ephraim is dealing with, where the shidduch is about to break because one of the families simply is not willing to accept anything less than the father of the other side to go out there and borrow money in order to pay for the wedding and the house and all of these other things, the gift and the Shabbat Chatan, and I think one other party. He has to go borrow money, and they're not willing to accept anything less than that. Now, this ridiculous mentality shows we're not winning. In fact, there are major campaigns that you'll see from time to time of different big rabbis in their communities, not necessarily Gdolei Israel, but you'll see sometimes rabbis support a campaign to raise money in order to help get more houses for bachurim, for newlyweds. Why is it enough to just get them rental money? No, rent is not enough. We need to buy. Everyone has to own a house. Everyone has to have a house when they get married, or a fancy wedding, and a big debt that they don't even know how they're going to pay. Now, this type of pressure, even if somebody manages to borrow the money for the down payment and they get a house, the amount of pressure that this puts on a new couple, I've seen firsthand. It literally sometimes breaks the marriage or simply destroys their life. Why? Because the amount of pressure they have as a result of buying this house that they really can't afford. Now they have to come up with a mortgage payment every month that they really don't have the money to pay. So yes, they can tell people, yeah, I own this apartment. It's $1 million apartment theoretically, but as far as how I'm going to pay the mortgage for the next month, needless to say for the next 30 years, I have no idea. Literally, it's a miracle every month. And many times people don't do this because of being savvy financially, but rather because of this social obsession with ownership. You have great things that happen at some communities, but also give us a little bit of a idea of where our minds are sometimes. Some communities are so united when they want to buy a car. They buy it as a community. 10,000 Hasidim want to buy a car. And they'll arrange a special deal with the manufacturer. I mean, listen, you buy 10,000 cars, for sure you're going to get a much better deal. You're going to save 30%, 40%, 20%. You're going to save something significant from the manufacturer. So overall, theoretically, it's very good. Yes, everybody has saved money, but does everybody really need a new car? Does 10,000 people really need a new car? And again, I enjoy materialism as much as the next person. People like to eat, people like to drink, people like to live in a nice house, have nice things. But there's a difference between enjoying something and obsessing over it. And many times you see people obsessing over money where it's constantly on their mind, and they're constantly looking for ways to bring in more money, to do this, to do that. Rabbi is telling us that materialistic endeavor, even if you win and you got the money now because your wife opened up the store and now the store is making a bunch of money and you don't have to worry about borrowing money from your parents anymore. Good. But don't think that it comes for free. There is a certain level of spiritual loss that comes with it also, especially when it's on a community scale. When the community becomes obsessed with money, the loss is greater than the gain. And therefore, Rav Wasserman is saying, the כוחות שמתבזבזים לנהל מלחמה בדברים גשמיים, אילו נשתמשנו בהן לרוחניות, היו התוצאות יותר נכבדות ונעלות. Says, the strength, the resources, the effort that we are spending in order to win the materialistic war, in order to acquire more money, in order to acquire more possessions, a bigger building, a bigger house, a nicer watch, whatever it is, the efforts, especially when it's on a community aspect of it, not just individual aspect of it, when we're spending all of the resources on upgrading our social standards, that means that we're spending our resources on materialism when we should have spent our resources on spirituality. Because had we spent those resources on spirituality, the results would have been much more respectable, would have been much better. Why would the results be much better? Now you can say, yeah, if we spent all of that time and money, instead of arranging 10,000 people to buy a car, we get 10,000 people to come to a lecture. Instead of getting all of the big rabbis to get people to donate money so people can have houses and in a bigger building and so on, we could actually get all of the big rabbis to fight for the truth and get people to do tshuva. And in essence, make sure that whoever is in a position of leadership follows the code of law called the Shulchan Aruch. And not just let everybody out there do whatever it is that they want to do, whenever they want to do, without any recourse, without any consequences. This unity for materialism is absent when it comes to spirituality. You'll see, for example, even the campaign that we launched today to help poor people in Israel. Now, we help poor people literally every single day in Israel. We have a few campaigns during the year, especially during the holidays, where we try to raise some money so we can help even more. So people donate to those campaigns, and Baruch Hashem they do, because we could use that money to help people that are poor, that don't have heating in their house, that are walking around during the winter without a jacket, not because they don't want a jacket, not because their jacket is not the nice color enough, but rather because they can't afford a jacket. Or you have kids that literally walking around winter with last year's clothes that have holes in them, or shoes that open up their mouth like it's like a hippopotamus. But they can't afford to buy new shoes. So there's plenty of poverty in Israel, and we're trying to address as much of it as we possibly can. We've literally given millions of dollars over the years to help poor people in Israel, and we continue to. On the other hand, when we have a spiritual campaign to, let's say, to publicize more Torah, to help our kollel, to publicize the films that are literally changing people's lives, the amount of money that people donate for that is significantly less. Significantly less. Why? Because we're all much more influenced by materialism than we are by spirituality. People are much more scared of being poor than they are of being not religious. So they're much more scared of being poor, so therefore they want to help the poor, and they're willing to help the poor. But they're not necessarily so scared about their cousin or their friend or their uncle or even their children being not religious. So they don't necessarily see the need for it as much. And therefore they don't donate the same. They have no problem spending $50,000, $100,000 on remodeling their house. But to donate, to help more people do tshuva, if they donate $500, it's a miracle. Literally, it's a miracle for some people. Even if they have the money, they just don't see the need. Even if that same spiritual teachers that have helped them, the spiritual doctors as the Rambam calls them, even if they healed them from their sickness, they still don't see the need. Not as much as they see the need for a new kitchen, or a new roof, or a new garage, or a new set of tools, or a new vacation, or a new second car. This is because even though we're on the side of the religious, we're on the side of those that are committed to Hashem, that have fear of Hashem, Rav Wasserman is telling us we're still influenced by the students of Lavan that portray materialism, but in reality are fighting spiritually. We are supposed to be portraying spirituality and fighting spiritual. But in reality, our resources are mainly going towards materialism, he says. And those resources, that strength, that money, that time, that effort to unite people, spent on materialism, cost us a part of our spirituality, a part of our spiritual elevation. Because had we spent those resources on elevating ourselves, allowing ourselves to become closer to Hashem, having more fear of Hashem, having more people learn about fear of Hashem, says Rav Wasserman, the results would have been much better. The results would have been much better. But since the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, will do anything, as we learned in last week's shiur, will do anything in order to create unity for the sake of materialism, just to make sure that you don't learn Torah and you don't unite when it comes to Torah. So if the Sephardi and Ashkenazi community, the Hasidish and the different part of the Jewish community, the Sephardi community, want to unite in order to serve some type of materialistic purpose, no problem. The Satan will even help them. The Satan will even help two opposing sides, the Chabadniks and the Mitnagdim, pretty much everybody else, to unite in order to acquire more materialism, in order to have more materialistic accomplishments, whether it be put somebody as somebody that works in some important position representing the Jewish people in America or in England or in Australia or in wherever, or they'll unite for that. The Satan will even help the Jews unite for materialistic purposes. Just don't unite for spiritual purposes. If you want to have an event in a community that already has an audience, already has people, he said, okay, I'm going to invite this speaker. Wait, no, we are Hasidish, he's Sephardi. Or we are Ashkenazi, he's Sephardi. Or we are Sephardi, he's Ashkenazi, he's a Sephardi. Okay, so let's just bring a bunch. Let's just bring a Hasidish guy, Ashkenazi guy, a Sephardi guy. We'll bring a little bit of everything. Well, let's see. Do they all agree on everything that we agree with? What do you mean? They're all teachers. They're all good. Yeah, but we need to, investigate. Oh, his Yirat Shamayim is it's too much for us. It's too little for us. It's too this for us. It's too that for us. And what ends up happening, Rabotai, is that when it comes to spirituality, the only unity you will ever find is unity of people that are just like each other. Unity within the Ashkenazi community with the Ashkenazi community. Unity of the Sephardi community within the Sephardi community. Unity of the Hasidic community, of whichever Hasidut it is, with itself. You're not going to see spiritual unity in other ways. Why? Because unity that way will promote more Torah. Can't have that. The Satan will not let that happen. But what about, some type of, materialistic issue? Unity there, much easier to get, so much so that the Satan will even help sometimes. The Satan will even help sometimes, Rabotai. Now, what Rav Wasserman is trying to tell us here is that if we spend that same energy to elevate the Yirat Shamayim in our communities, to elevate the learning Torah in our communities, to elevate the religiosity within our communities, in a united effort, the results of both the material and the spiritual would be much better. How so? He says, Ki הגשמיות היא בידי שמיים, והרוחניות בידי אדם. ובגשמיות ההצלחה תלויה לפי ערך הביטחון בהשם. ברוך הגבר אשר יפתח באדוני, והיה אדוני מבטחו. ואילו ברוחניות כתוב, אל תפתחו באלוף. זה הקדוש ברוך הוא. So here he says, what people are misunderstanding, missing, forgetting, whatever the case may be, is that the success that you would have when it comes to money, when it comes to materialism, is all in the hands of Shemaim. It's all in the hands of Hashem. Whereas the success that you would have in spirituality is in the hands of man. Most people look at it the opposite of what it is. Instead of investing in Yirat Shamayim, people invest their energy in acquiring business success or materialistic possessions. Because they believe that if they don't exert themselves extra, they'll never get the house, they'll never get the car, they'll never get more money, or the job, or whatever it is. But don't you realize that the Torah itself says, Akol midei shamayim chutz mirat shamayim, everything is from heaven, except the fear of heaven, which literally means all of your financial success, all of your social success, as far as what position you have, what job you will have, all of those things are all in the hands of Hashem. It has nothing to do with you. Your material success is 100% in the hands of Hashem. But the spiritual success, that's in your hands. That's Yirat Shamayim. Whether you fear Hashem or not, whether you listen to Hashem or not, that's in your hands. And Rav Wasserman says, did they forget that when it comes to Gashmiut, when it comes to materialism, to physicality, we learn from the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 7. Baruch hagever asher yiftach ba'Adonai v'haya Adonai miftacho. Blessed is the man who trusts in Hashem, and then Hashem will be his security. But when it comes to Ruchniut, when it comes to spirituality, the prophet Micha in chapter 7 verse 5 says, Al ta'aminu bere'a, al tiftechu ba'aluf, mishochevet chikchat shemor, pitre picha. So don't trust a friend. Don't rely on an official. Guard your doorway to your mouth from the one who lies in your bosom. Here, we have two opposing things. Rav Wasserman brings both of them. He says, when it comes to materialism, Jeremiah tells us, blessed is the man who trusts in Hashem. If you trust in Hashem that He's going to provide you anything that you need, that in itself is a reason for Hashem to provide you. On the other hand, if you trust in a person to provide you, that in itself is a reason for Hashem not to provide you. So in essence, Jeremiah is telling us in the name of Hashem that this is a cause and effect, says the Radak, where as a result of you trusting in Hashem, Hashem will provide you everything that you need. The Malbim, on the other hand, says that even if a person trusts in Hashem, but he still believes that his source of success will come from his boss, will come from this customer, will come from a specific idea that he has. Now, that's not considered full bitachon in Hashem. So they're not going to have this complete blessing where Hashem will always be their security, because as long as you believe in anything but Hashem being your source of salvation, that means there's a lacking in your belief in Hashem. So the blessing will lack as a result of the belief lacking. Now, you won't be cursed because you still believe in Hashem and that He's the one that's going to provide you, but because you, in essence, assume that Hashem is limited to how He can provide you your sustenance, your material success, your position, or whatever it is that you're looking for materially, because you limited Hashem, you lost a big part of the blessing. Still not cursed like someone that relies on a person, though. But if a person wants to have complete blessing where they don't have to worry about ever lacking anything, the more trust you have in Hashem, the more blessing you will have. When people ask me, how do you survive? I say, Hashem provides. Okay, but how does that happen? I said, Hashem sends me money. What do you mean, how? Yeah, but you still invest in the market, you're still working, maybe you have a side gig that you are working at a different company, doing consulting, board of directors, and no. All I do is, I learn Torah and I publicize Torah. That's what I do. Okay, but how do you live? I said, Hashem provides. Well, how does the organization live? Hashem provides. Well, do you call people to donate money every month? Never called a single person to donate money. Literally, the maximum effort is publicizing a campaign once in I think maybe a handful of times in my entire last 10 years. I've sent somebody a text message or an email letting them know that there is a campaign going on or an opportunity. Other than that, I generally don't even talk to people about donations. Well, then how do the people donate? Well, Hashem sends them. And people have a hard time understanding that. And the more confidence you have in Hashem, the more Hashem will worry about you. In fact, anytime that I've asked or told people, listen, there's an opportunity to donate or there's something to donate for, literally 100% of the time I regretted it. Why? I felt like I failed a little bit in my emunah in Hashem. Why did I ask? If Hashem wanted them to donate, they'll donate on their own. Why do I have to ask? I didn't ask the other 99 million times. Why do I have to ask now? But that's a constant work that a person has to trust in Hashem. And the more they trust in Hashem, the more Hashem will provide for them. When a person does not trust in Hashem at all, then he doesn't have this blessing at all. He gets a curse because he's trusting in something else. When a person has a partial trust in Hashem, where they believe that Hashem will provide for them through this person, through this idea, through this client, through this job, then they lose out a very big part of the blessing. Why? Because you're not trusting in Hashem 100%. You're trusting in a limited God. Chas v'shalom, it could even be considered a different God because God is not limited. So, the first part of the message that Jeremiah tells us, that Rav Wasserman is bringing up, is having complete and uncompromising and trust in Hashem shouldn't just be the goal of every Jew, but it has to be. It has to be in order for us to win. Because the blessing that a person gets looks like this, says Jeremiah. This person that trusts in Hashem, and now Hashem became his security, the next couple of verses tell us what that looks like. He will be like a tree planted near water, which spreads out its roots along the brook and does not see when heat comes, whose foliage is ever fresh. It will not worry in a year of drought and will not stop producing fruit. The heart is the most deceitful of all, and it's fragile. Who can know it? I, Hashem, plumb the feelings and test the innermost thoughts, to give man according to his ways, the fruits of his deeds. Here Jeremiah is telling us, if a person has trust in Hashem, literally, they're going to be like a tree that continues to grow without anybody nourishing it, nurturing it, nothing. Nobody has to water it, nobody has to touch it, but you see the tree continue to grow for 100 years. How does it grow 100 years? Nobody's watering and nothing. Hashem takes care of it. It continues to grow, it continues to produce more fruit. What about the tough weather, the fires, the wind, the hurricanes? None of those are going to affect this tree. Why? Hashem is his security. When a person trusts in Hashem, the more trust you have in Hashem, the more you rely on Hashem, the more Hashem is going to protect you. And Jeremiah is reminding us of this. But on the other hand, he's also telling us in verse number 9 and 10 that a person's heart can be deceitful. Who can know it? Meaning, a person can lie to themselves by making them appear as if they have trust in Hashem, where they're doing everything that you would do if you had trust in Hashem. But says the Radak, this person may be doing all of the right things, but really in his heart, he may not have emunah in Hashem at all. And that's why he does not have blessings. Meaning that a person has a certain level of emunah that he can portray, but Hashem checks his heart. Hashem checks our heart. How much does she really believe? How much does he really believe? And that's how he decides how much blessings to give that person. And that's why Hashem said in that verse, I, Hashem, plumb the fettings and test the innermost thoughts, to give man according to his ways, the fruits of his deeds. Because a person cannot hide his thoughts or his feelings from Hashem. This is one of the 13 principles of faith. That Hashem knows your thoughts, Hashem knows your feelings. On the other hand, there are some people that pretend to be good, pretend to be faithful of Hashem, but in reality, they're criminals. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they do all types of things. And they acquire money in ways that are against the Torah. Businesses like cash advance, businesses that are corrupt, selling different types of things to people, like wishful thinking to people. And these types of people, Hashem says in verse number 11, like a partridge summoning together chicks it did not bear, so is the one who amasses wealth unjustly. In the middle of his days it will leave him, and at his end he will be considered the scoundrel. Says the prophet that there's this bird that sometimes steals chicks from other birds. Looks like has a big family, but in reality it stole them. He says the same thing with somebody that acquires money in inappropriate ways. Like this wicked rabbi that, I don't know what his name is, but he certainly is wicked, when he took literally pictures, publicized pictures with one of the biggest criminals in the world today, who is one of the biggest cash advance companies out there. He's in a picture after this guy was sued by the government for, I think, $1 billion, $1.5 billion. Apparently they settled for a much smaller sum, like $30-40 million, because they charged their clients 800% interest, which obviously destroyed his clients. Point being is, this guy settled with the government for a substantial amount of money, and for his corrupt business. And after that, publicized a picture with him and I guess a couple of his partners. And one of the partners, or at least somebody that's very close to him, is this rabbi that's koshering his pig every day. Now, the rabbis that are supporting this cash advance corrupt business or any other type of business where everyone that looks into it knows that this is a pig, even if you put lipstick on it, this is completely against the Torah. Those people are doing it because they're acquiring wealth. And Hashem says through the prophet, they're acquiring wealth unjustly, just like the partridge is acquiring more birds by stealing it from others. And what's going to happen with those people? Eventually, the money's going to go away. Eventually, Hashem is going to take all of it from them. In fact, some of the Chachamim say, no, he's not saying he's going to take all the money away from them. The Radak says, no, he's going to take them away from the money. He's going to kill them early. That's why the Ibn Ezra says people that are evil when it comes to that type of for money and things of that nature, for them to die young is actually considered a natural phenomenon based on their negative character flaws after they and how they affect their life. In so many words, Hashem doesn't leave anybody with debt. He pays everybody whatever they deserve. And for those that are not in the obvious criminal, and they're not the most righteous, but there is flaws in their emunah in Hashem, they need to know that the higher your trust in Hashem, the higher the blessing. The less trust you have in Hashem, the less blessing. And the way that a person could understand it is, the Midrash says that there was once an architect who built an entire city. And one day they decided to make this architect the king of this city, of this country. And one day there was criminals in the country, in this city, robbed a bunch of people, and then went and hid from the king, hid from the wrath. But since the king knew exactly where everything is, he knew exactly where they were hiding, and he caught them. And the Midrash says, imbeciles, don't you realize that I built those secret coves? You can't use them to hide from me. The same concept, Hashem tells the sinners that they shouldn't think that they could hide their thoughts from Him, their wickedness from Him, their lack of trust in Him, because He's the one that created you. So on one end we see that Rav Wasserman is telling us, in essence warning us, that having less trust in Hashem, less bitachon in Hashem, is not only not good for us, where it lowers the amount of blessing, but it actually is even something that a person could eventually get punished for. Now, what happens when people trust in materialism? Not only they don't trust in Hashem and that He provides, but they simply think that it's in their hands to provide. You eat what you kill mentality. Rav Wasserman says that the people that have this mentality that their position in the government, their position in the army, their position in the company, their position in the community, in the keilah, whatever their position is, that's what's going to win. Whatever their bankroll is, that's what's going to win. Whatever their idea is, that's what's going to win. He says these are people that are trusting in the ministers, in the human powers, and they're making not only a mistake, they're putting themselves in a position where they're literally living against the Torah. As the prophet Micha says, don't trust a friend, don't rely on an official, Guard the doorways of your mouth from the one who lies in your bosom. Here, the prophet is telling us that in his generation, needless to say, in our generation, people were so lowly that it's impossible to trust people. It's impossible to trust people. So much so that in the previous verses he says there is no such thing as a judge or any type of official that will give you any type of benefit without a bribe. The best of them, he says, this is in verse number 4, the best of them is like a thorn. The upright one is like a hedge of thistles. In so many words, all of these people in power that, in judges and powerful people that people rely on, he says, you don't realize how much it's going to end up costing you in the end. And a lot of people put their trust in these officials and these powerful people, and they don't realize that not only are you now trusting in something that brings you a curse, but you're also removing any type of connection you have to Hashem. If it was, come on, we're going to listen to our speakers that say otherwise, to our rabbis that say otherwise. And that's why the prophet Micha continues and says, on the day of your expectation, your punishment will come. Now you will become perplexed. Why perplexed? Why is somebody confused that punishment came? Because all of their life, they were hearing that there's no punishment, that this is the way to go, that you can do whatever you want, that there's no laws, that heresy is the truth. And that's why the prophet Micha is saying, don't rely on any of these people. In fact, even protect your secrets from people that are close to you. Why? He was living in a degenerate generation. Needless to say, we are in a similar situation where a lot of people, if they don't have Yirat Shamayim, if they don't have fear of Hashem, you have to remember what Avraham Avinu said to Avimelech. The reason why I told you that Sarah is my sister instead of my wife is because I saw that there's no fear of Hashem in this place, and you may kill me over my wife. The same thing is what Micha is saying. You can't trust anybody. This doesn't mean you can't befriend people, you can't be friendly with people, you can't do business with people, but you have to know that if you're looking for more friends, you're looking for more problems. If you're looking to develop more security in your relationship with some type of public official, you're looking for more problems. If you're sharing all of your secrets with everyone because they're close to you, you're looking for problems. And if a person wants to listen to what Micha says in verse number 7, as he closes this section, he says, as for me, I put my hope in Hashem and await God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Here, Rav Wasserman is in essence giving us a map with certain treasures in it. He gave us a verse in Jeremiah that is no less of a treasure than all the treasures of the world. And if that wasn't enough to help us with bitachon and Hashem, he gave us the verse in Micha that is again no less than the most valuable treasures in this world. Because it also shows us the reality of the times, a couple of thousand years ago, is identical to the reality of today. Identical. The only difference is electronics, iPads, iPhones, TikToks, Facebooks. Aside from that, society is the same. And therefore, both of these prophets said, don't trust in people. Don't trust in politics. Don't trust even in your own materialistic abilities. Trust in Hashem. The more you trust in Hashem, the more success you will acquire materially and spiritually. But the more you invest in acquiring material success, the more you are becoming like Lavan and his students, who acquire material success, But they're still winning because they're acquiring more material success, but their efforts, all their resources are spent on spreading their heresy. And you are focusing just your energy on materialism and, in essence, no time on spirituality. So a person that actually invests all of this effort, all of this time to build themselves and not enough time to get closer to Hashem, to get the community closer to Hashem, ends up losing out. We'll finish it up with an amazing story that I think puts everything into perspective. This is a story I heard from my Rav, who heard it from a well-known Rav, Rabbi Chaim Zaid, who has amazing stories. And this story he heard from the person in the story, meaning it's his first-hand information. Some years ago, there was a mafia boss in Israel. And this gangster was feared by everyone, except he found a girl, and he married the girl. And this girl was like the love of his life. They had a daughter, but 2 years after they got married, his wife died. He was heartbroken over this and refused to marry anybody else after that. But he spent all of his time and effort raising this kid. His mom raised her, and he provided everything and anything that this kid wanted. There was no limitations whatsoever. Fancy dinners, fancy clothes, fancy vacation, fancy toys, everything. Literally no limitation whatsoever. He put everything he had into this daughter that he had. Time passed. The daughter grew up, and she got married too. Now the father of the gangster, he's looking forward to finally having some fruits, because he only had one daughter. He never got remarried. He wants to have grandkids. A year passes, 2 years pass, 3 years pass, no kids. What's happening? How come his daughter's not having kids with a husband? It's not working. They go to doctors. Doctors say, can't help you, don't know why. Go to other doctors, can't help you. Do all types of treatments. Again, money was not an issue. See, literally they're spending millions to get all types of treatments in order to have grandkids, in order for his daughter to have kids. And it's not working. One day, he's in his office, and one of his guys comes in and sees the boss, the mafia boss, sad. He says, "Boss, what's wrong?" Nothing. What can you do for me?" He goes, "Listen, boss, if you want, somebody's said something about you, I'll clip him right away. I'll get rid of him. Just let me know the address." He goes, No, it's nothing like that. Then what's wrong, boss? He says, "Listen, my daughter, she's already married for several years, but there's no kids, and she's my only daughter. I don't have any other kids, and what is going to be after her? Nothing. I'm not going to have anything left in this world." He said, "Boss, why don't you tell me? Just come to our village." "Why? What's in your village?" He says, "Oh, in my village we have this Arab sheikh. He does all types of witchcraft, and it works. You want a kid? I'll give you a kid in a week. I'll give you a kid in a year." "Oh yeah? Why don't you say so?" All right, they went. Now again, this is a mafia boss. This is not just a small-time gangster. He arrives with his little entourage to this Arab sheikh, which some of them know all types of witchcraft. And this one sees this mafia boss, and he comes to him and he says to him, "Listen, you know who I am? You probably heard about me, or you said it in the newspapers. Now, anything you want, I'll give you. Money, this, that, no problem. But it better work. It better work. If not, I promise you, I'll come back here and do all of the worst possible things to you. In so many words, a deal the sheikh could not refuse. So the sheikh says, no problem. You can have 2 babies in 1 year. You're going to have twins, your daughter. What do you need? So he asked them for different things for witchcraft, certain hair, certain liquids, certain different ingredients. He got these ingredients together, made some type of potion, and then he told them, listen, now I need 10 chickens. 10 chickens. Why? I need 10 chickens. Okay, so here's $1,000. Go get me some chickens. They went, they got the chickens. Now the sheikh continues with his little witchcraft. He starts speaking and saying certain types of sounds to each chicken. Then he chops off its head with his hands. Blood's all over the place. The whole witchcraft is set. Then he gives the 10 chickens to the mafia boss. He says, listen, now you take this and you give the drink to your daughter. After she drinks this, she has to eat 1 chicken every day for 10 days. She does that, she'll have twins in 1 year. The mafia boss is happy as can be. He feels like he finally found the solution. He goes to his daughter's house. He presents her the drink. He presents her the 10 chickens. But to his dismay, even though his daughter was not religious, she says to him, Abba, I love you, but I'm not going to eat those chickens. What? Why not? She said, even though I don't keep much of the religion, I still have never eaten non-kosher. And I refuse to eat non-kosher meat. Of course, the father, he's a gangster. He loses his mind. Starts yelling at her. What are you talking about? All of a sudden you became some tzadikah. You violate Shabbat. You drive. You do this. You do that. What do you care all of a sudden? So what if this Arab ripped their head off? So what? It's still chicken. Just eat it. What's the difference? What do you want me to be? Just by myself and that's it. I'm going to die and there's no grandchildren. It's your fault. And now he's taking out literally decades of frustration on his kid, on his daughter. But she's not having it. She says, listen, I'm not going to eat these chickens. No chance in the world that I'm going to eat these chickens. They're not kosher. He says, okay, fine, listen, just leave him here. Think about it. And then maybe you'll change your mind. She says, no, Abba, they're not staying in my house. They're going straight into the garbage. Absolutely not allowed in my house, these chickens. And of course, the father loses his mind, gets really, really upset, and says, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. He threatens her with everything. She takes it. She says, listen, I'm not doing it. And he disconnects from her. He stops talking to his own daughter, his only daughter. But she was willing to stand her ground for this small amount of Judaism that she still had in her life. She wasn't keeping modesty or Shabbat or anything else virtually, except she didn't eat non-kosher meat. But for her, this was everything. And guess what? That little bit of light, that little bit of spark, that little bit of connection to Hashem that she held on to, that little bit of spirituality that she stood up for, was enough of a reason for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give her twins 9 months later. Without any witchcraft, without any taref chickens, without any medical treatment, without any supplements, simply based on the emunah that she had in Hashem, that she's gonna simply refuse to eat non-kosher. So if the gangster's daughter can get a blessing that she's been waiting for years, just based on a little bit of spirituality that she still had left in her to connect to Hashem, how much can we, as the religious Jews, the religious community, how much more can we get if we help more Jews get closer to Hashem, more of these young women and men to get closer to Hashem, to keep Torah, to keep mitzvot, to keep Shabbat, to keep modesty. And instead of actually investing so much resources, chasing money, chasing positions, chasing popularity, chasing the White House or the Black House or whatever other house, instead of looking for wins in some type of NBA contest or soccer or some type of business adventure, we can attain all the success we can possibly imagine by simply helping more Jews become more Jewish, by helping more Jews connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman is telling us. He's telling us that yes, Lavan's students make themselves pretty obvious. They're the ones that present materialism, but in reality, they fight for spirituality. We have to learn from them to fight for spirituality. But what about materialism? If you fight for the sake of Hashem, if you fight for the sake of publicizing Torah, if you fight for the sake of saving Am Yisrael from heresy, Hashem will provide you all the material you can possibly need and want. Because Aboteach be'Hashem, Chesed Yosevavenu, someone that has trust in Hashem, only kindness will surround him. May it be His will that each and every single one of us will take the resources that we have to help spread more Torah, to help more Jews get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and use those resources, use those blessings that Hashem has, in order to show Hashem that we know where it came from and know where it should go to. Thank you very much for learning with me. Anyone that wants to support can donate on our website, can donate on the campaign that will be in the comment section and description. There's a lot we can do. There's a lot, Be'ezrat Hashem, we want to do. And Be'ezrat Hashem, each one of you will choose to be our partners in all the good things that the organization is doing, Baruch Hashem. School of Mitzvot, Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll learn again later this week.